Alright, this might be very close to the end of our 5-speed renovation project here. This is the classic Mini Cooper and other vehicles that use the A-Series engine. In this case, it's a very custom Austin, America. Our friend Lance at now The Forge up in Colorado is putting this into the Austin, America. So we've gone through this thing and totally revised the shift linkage on the underside. We've changed a few things. We've added the center oil pickup, the nice trick part that picks up the oil from the very center of the sump down here. And on the way we changed a synchro for first gear. A few other minor things. We ended up a couple of little roller bearings in here, but the main work was of course modifying the shift forks, including this brass fork right here, first, second. We have our big cat in here keeping us company in the CooperRoadMini basement. Let me put this up and take a look inside here. You can see the first, second shift fork here through the diff opening still. And while we're here, we can also see the added in linkage that makes fifth gear work. There's an extra stud down here as we showed with the empty box. But now we've put it all together. We've got the little pin that holds the shift rod that goes through the whole box, and now then connects it to fifth gear via a roll pin. So this extra linkage here allows engaging fifth, which we can see over on this side of the box. This is the pin that holds the shift fork. Now this fork and this shaft are fixed so that when that linkage kicks it over, that's how we engage fifth over here. We'll try to put it through the gears here and show. Right now we're in reverse. Here's our normal direction of rotation. And you can see how reverse, there's a lot of gears inside this box. Reverse basically reverses the main shaft direction, the output direction. The engine's still turning the same way, of course, so our lay shaft still goes the same way, but when we engage our little reverse idler under here, it engages this outer ring of first and changes the direction of the shaft. This is why I tell people, if you want to break in your synchros, like on a test stand, I put these engines when I'm running them in reverse. Because look what happens. Here's the direction of rotation of the engine. All these synchro hubs have their inner synchros going the opposite direction. So you're going to have a very fast effect on wearing in some synchros. Sometimes you fire these up and they're so tight, they bog down the engine. And so it's not a bad idea if you have some synchros that are, say, extra tight, just production tolerances. Put it in reverse, run it on the stand. That way you've taken down some of the synchros, worn them into their gears a little faster than having to drive around. You can see how fifth works here. It's kind of an interesting look. You can see, of course, the lay gear still rotating, everything the same way. The constant mesh. I think my cat's tearing something up. But it's interesting to see how the shaft rotates the opposite way. Now the shaft, the gear to the right there, these two down here, that's the final drive. And so in reverse it rotates opposite of the shaft. All we see are the synchro hubs here and here, rotating that way. So an interesting box, much more complicated, looks really full compared to a standard 4-speed. Let's see if we can put through the gears. We've shown reverse. Let's pop it back into neutral. And see our direction of rotation now. It's much easier to rotate because we're not pushing the synchros backwards on through all their cones. So that's what the thing does when you start up in neutral. All these things are engaged to the engine. This is all spinning as you sit at a stoplight in neutral. When you put in the clutch, all this stuff comes to a stop. Then the crank is turning inside the primary gear, and the clutch disc is allowing the slippage. And then this comes to a stop, and then you can gently shift it. Speaking of gently shifting, let's see, it's not as easy to do from a rod like this, obviously, and you have to kind of eyeball some of these gears, but let's see if we first, let's see here, that's shaft speed. Let's line up those gears over here and go, hit it, palm of my hand, second, back to neutral. Third's a little trickier, but I think it's that way. There's third gear we can see engaged over here underneath our oil pickup. Let's line up our splines, pop it into, not quite into fourth gear. Right there, we can see the hub slid over and engaged these little dogs. And we can see the output here. This is what a normal gearbox would be turning. None of this stuff would be here. You'd just have this gear 1-to-1 with the input from the engine. And of course then you've got the differential, which has your final drive taking the 1-to-1 of the shaft speed with a much bigger gear down to something like 3-to-1, somewhere in that range. 3.44 in this case is our final drive with the overdrive fifth, giving us probably the equivalent of a 3-1 final drive. But with bigger wheels and a heavy car, this should be a pretty good combination. I wouldn't want to run much taller final drive gears. Let's see if we can catch fifth here. Again, I wish we had lighting to see the inside of this. No, there's fourth. And we can, let's see. I have the range for my. You can see how smoothly that works there. We got selectable gates. Let me see if I can grab fifth. It's tough to do with one hand on the box, but over here we can see the ring. If I can catch that cleanly, that should be fifth right there. And you can see the output. You can see as I turn this is now of course much harder to turn because I'm actually making the output go faster than I'm putting it input. And we can see the gear here is coupled, of course, this slider has grabbed the dog teeth on this fifth gear now. So all of our power going through the box is coming in here, across here, all the way across to here, through this gear, which then turns the main shaft at the output, which is higher than the input. Something like probably 1.1 or 1.15. In this case, I haven't really seen the numbers. But anyway, we can cleanly grab all the gears. All the linkage works very smoothly. All the gears work nice and smooth. We've got a really slick box here. They all perform fantastically in a truly well-built car. Alright, bit of a long video, but this might be the last one for this 5-speed. Yes, I hear you say. Thank you for following along. I hope it's given you some insight to these boxes, and if you have one of them, now you know how to fix it. Alrighty, we'll see ya.